Hey everybody, how's everybody doing? This is LA Kendrick back with another story. It was emailed to me by a friend of mine. We spoke for an extended period of time before she decided to send me this story. She says it's true, and we're going to call her Shanice. To protect her name. She has a blog and a podcast, and she's from Hackensack, New Jersey. Well, she's in Hackensack, New Jersey. So, without further ado, another horror story for you guys called, what did she say? Okay. Sundown Town. So, there was a reporter from Hackensack, New Jersey, and she was following a story about about missing people for either sex trafficking or organ harvesting. But the number seems to be higher with the blacks she was referring to. So she received information from a friend that her daughter has been missing for like 30 days after not coming back from the store. Said that her friend said that she took it to the authorities. Now, uh, the authorities never respond back, and they didn't really do an investigation, which she thought was kind of weird, but nonetheless, she found a PI, private investigator, and she turned it over to him. And he provided her with some solid leads and told her um, he was going to look for her at one of the major leads that he got. Well, the primary lead that he got. And he said he'd be keeping in touch. But the last time he checked in was like a week ago from the time of this story, into the body of the story. And that's very unusual for the PI because he's really thorough, but he was checking somewhere between Pulaski, Tennessee, and the borders of Mississippi and Alabama. So Shanice, the reporter, she triangulated the area and narrowed it down to a small town in Mississippi, close to the border, right along the border in that area, vicinity. And what he had expressed to her was that a sundown town, which if you don't know what that means all non-whites should not be out in the public in their town after the sun goes down. Excuse me. He told her that the town was full of flag-waving white supremacists. And they basically had run all the non-white people out of the town over the decades, and they keep a real tight leash on what goes on in the town. Now, her friend's daughter was seen being forced into a car with Mississippi plates. This car has been coming into the state and into a Hackensack, in certain areas. Didn't matter what the economic value of the area was, and was doing basically suspicious things. And a lot of kidnappings happen whenever this car will pop up, kind of like the Atlanta child murders back in the early 80s, late 70s. And this vehicle was the prime suspect in the PI's investigation. So by the investigator not responding back for a while, Shanice packs up her gun and other self-defense items, not to mention, that the fact that her fiance is a martial arts expert and has his own dojo where he teaches judo as well as other forms of self-defense. She tells her fiance about her plan to track down her friend's daughter and asks him what he thinks. Of course, most guys, they go round and round, with your woman when you're trying to make sure that she's protected. They go round and round about it because he knows the dangers of a woman going into a sundown town. He knows fully aware of what that is. A sundown town full of white supremacists looking for a black female, missing black female, snooping around. So they really don't. And the fact is they really they don't get along with any outsiders, let alone non-whites. So people have historically gone missing without a trace in some of these towns across the country. This is just not an isolated incident. From her reports, she's been doing really thorough investigations on it, intensive investigations on it, right? Now, she did withhold the fact that the PI never came back from his lead in the town, which she's attempting to go. She assures her fiance that she will call him every hour on the hour and only spend a few days looking around. He agrees but tells her that he'll be joining her in a couple of days. And, of course, she gives him a kiss. He checks the car and makes sure all the fluids and everything is running properly. He also checks to see if she has what she needs financially, finance-wise and food-wise, and she's off. But she notices, she looks back, he's got a seriously distressed look on his face, something, she's never seen even growing up, with this guy. They were, friends, as kids, even in the rough neighborhood. And apparently on this trip, she would really learn why, like a foreshadowing. So, basically, the drive is not a short drive. It's about 16 hours, a little bit over 1,000 miles. But she's enjoying the scenery, all the different colors on her cross-country drive through the Southern Falls states. She gets close to her destination, about 25 minutes. And all of a sudden, she tells me she hits this huge pothole and didn't even realize it because, she was just enjoying all the scenery. And a loud pop. So she pulls over because the car starts to run a little bit funny. Not smooth like it was not smooth anymore. And she gets out and checks the front of the car. It seems as though something is broken. She thinks it's an axle. Her fiance's kind of taught how to be savvy around vehicles and check for certain things. And so she looks ahead a little bit, right? And she tells me that she can see a service shop, in the distance, not too far away. So she goes to the service shop, she turns in and asks, the mechanic on duty, can he take a look at her car? He does and tells her she has a cracked axle and a CV boot. And it would take a couple hours, maybe a day, because he's backed up. She explains that she's short on time and would pay him extra if he would push her to the front of the line, which is a nice little trick. They agree, and then she starts asking him about the town. He tells her that it's not a place that I frequent. They stay over there, we stay over here. That's one of those places that seems to be stuck in a time loop. They still have those ideas that, blacks or any non-whites are inferior and can be used like cattle. A lot of crazy stuff goes on over there. He also was explaining to her. People often come up missing, especially out-of-town folks. And she explains to him that she's a reporter and she's following a lead that a PI friend of her left, to follow up on. And the mechanic says, a PI, you say? And, she says yes, as if the way he responded to her, it's like he knew or he'd seen the PI. And he said, yeah, there was a white fella, about 6 foot, brown hair, passed through there a few days ago to get gas and asked a few questions about the town over there. And a missing black girl. He showed one of the cashiers a picture of the girl and said, yeah, funny thing is, now this is what the mechanic said, the funny thing is, now that he thinks about it, that the cashier that he asked never came back to work. And his family's not sure what happened to him. And then they call him here off and on, asking have we seen him and checking up on him. Now, again, Shanice, she's really elated and she feels that's really helpful. Now, some of the folks over there are downright mean, the mechanic is explaining to her, and he's letting her know what kind of people she's going to be running to. Some are deceitfully kind, getting you to drop your guard, and then poof, that person is rarely seen again. I'd stay away from over there, is what he told her if I were you. But I guess, if you're looking for your friend, that's the best place to start. He tries to explain to her, or kept conversing with her. And then Shanice, asks, do you have a taxi service around here? And the mechanic, he's telling her no, but we do have Uber that's closer by and it's more, cost efficient. But even the Uber drivers hate going to that side of the road. He calls it that side of the road. Well, I've got to check it out. I drove a long way, and this is for a friend. Can I have that number to the Uber driver? The Uber driver. He gives it to her, and she thanks him. And after she calls the Uber driver guy, she calls her fiance to let him know what her status is, and that she'll call him once she finds a hotel, as well as letting him know about the damage done to her car and how long it'll take to get it fixed. And so she tells me at this point, she gets into the Uber to go track down her friend's daughter and the PI. And she tells me this is when it really gets crazy and her nightmare begins. So this is, starts off, this is pretty intense, and it's a really good story. So she said it really happened. This is based on true events. So I don't know. Maybe we'll get to the bottom of it. Again, you guys do me a favor, like, share, subscribe. If you feel like donating to my Cash App, it's $outrage95. Helps me keep the channel going and platform. Still trying to get my other publication out for my latest novels. I do have work on Amazon, Ingram and Taylor, new Kindle. Feel free to look those up. I do a lot of work, and any comments are really appreciated. But this story is going to get really, really good, and the horror that follows is just, it's baffling. So, with that being said, you guys be sure to check your closets. Check all the dark spaces in the house, under the bed. If you happen to go out at night, check under your car. Because you never know what's lurking in the dark to claim you, to make you a story. This has been L.A. Kindred, bringing you the heavy.